Welcome to this edition of Inside America's Boardrooms. I'm TK Kerstetter and I'll be your host for the show. Also serve as co-founder and editor-at-large of Corporate Board Member. And we're here at Diligence Director's Experience and have the tough duty of being here in Napa Valley overlooking a beautiful valley of grapes. It's really not very tough duty, and yet we're going to try and bring you a good program on a good topic. And we're going to talk today about our board meetings as effective as they could be. And joining me is a very veteran director who's going to help us. Please welcome John Hinshaw, who's a director with Sysco Corp, DocuSign, and Bank of New York Mellon. Welcome, John.
Thanks, TK. Great to be here.
So you certainly fit the mold of a veteran director. It's serving on those, and I know you served on other boards in the past. So, you know, when we talk about meetings, because boards meet so little, I mean, really, some only 4 times, some 6, not counting the committee meetings. It's important, obviously, for that time to be used as, you know, as well as possible. Right. So, Mike, it's a 2-part question I want to ask you. First of all, how have the discussions in the boardroom changed over the last 5 years? Because we obviously have seen a lot of change. And then, what is the overall board process when you have to deal with things like digital transformation or even societal transformation or cyber or whatever? Has that sort of changed the structure of what happens? So 2-part question.
Yeah, those are great questions, and I've actually been a public company director on 2 boards now for 5 years, so your question's very pertinent on what's happened in those 5 years. And I would say several things. You know, one, the focus around digital transformation as a top-of-mind boardroom topic and key component of strategy has become much more front and center. You know, before it was relegated maybe to a risk committee or a tech committee. Now it is front and center in the boardroom because every single company is a tech company now, either in their products as they're tech-enabled or in a tech disruptor that's competing with them in some form or fashion. So that's been a major change. I think how directors use technology has also changed dramatically. We're here with Diligent. I mean, it's a great example of a platform that isn't just PowerPoint slides, but really allows directors to connect with other directors, to learn about what's going on in other forums, to, if you're on the audit committee, understand what other audit committees are doing. That's changed dramatically in the last 5 years as well. And then around the whole digital transformation discussion, you know, clearly as directors are added to boards, so when I joined 2 public company boards 5 years ago, I was the only tech-savvy director on the board, the only person who ever dealt with digital transformation. Now we've added several directors on side of me to help with those same discussions. And that's become, in addition to diversity and environmental sustainability, one of the top recruiting focuses for boards of directors.
Yeah, it's interesting, you know, it was always financial expert, you know, in the old days, and now the depth of what you need on the board is just so different than that. So I certainly understand that.
Exactly.
So switching gears just a little bit, when your boards are planning sort of their agenda for the year and decide how they're going to do things, how do you handle the committee meetings? Are your boards, and they may be different, but do you put the committees at the same time that you come in for the board meeting? Do you do it separate times because of the length of time that it might require, the regular board meeting? Do you invite directors that don't serve on the committee if they'd like to sit in to become knowledgeable? Maybe they're hoping to serve on a particular committee someday. So review with our audience just how maybe all your boards handle it or how they might be different and what seems to work.
Sure. So in general, the committee meetings occur just before the board meetings in a 2 or 3 day agenda. The first half a day or day would be committee meetings, and then you'd flow into the full board meeting. And in that board meeting, each committee chair would read out their particular committee happenings to the rest of the board. For example, I chair the tech committee of the Bank of New York Mellon, so our tech committee meeting is usually Monday morning, and then by Monday afternoon or Tuesday morning, the full board is convened and we're doing readouts on committees and getting into the full agenda. So that's the general flow of how they work. There's some exceptions to that. For example, audit committees. I'm on the audit committee of both DocuSign and Sysco Foods. We have to meet off schedule to approve 10Ks, to approve quarterly earnings, to approve other key financial transactions. So, and on the tech committee, the Bank of New York Mellon, we meet off cycle as well because technology has become so front and center, and we want to review the technology plans on a more frequent basis than each board meeting. So I think it varies, but in general, that's the cadence that occurs. As far as directors sitting in on other boards, it's certainly very welcomed in all the boards I serve on. If you're on the audit committee and you want to spend some time in the comp committee, no problem there. And I think the most interesting thing is because of platforms like Diligent, you're able to view all of the committee materials for every committee on the boards that I'm on, regardless of whether you sit on those committees or not. So as they get rolled out, you're able to review all the material, and if you say, hey, that's really interesting to me, I'd love to sit in on that, it's very easy to do that.
Yeah. So I assume then that they're not concurrent when you're meeting ahead of time, because the other problem with that is you have to have enough board members because you're sitting on multiple committees. So
That's right.
I assume that they're not concurrent so that you can be on the comp committee as well as on the tech committee.
Well, they occasionally are concurrent, and so that is important to know. Like, for example, one of the boards I'm on, the tech committee and the non-gov committee is at the same time. So in that case, I wouldn't necessarily attend the other one unless it was a special event.
Yeah.
But in general, like audit and compensation are usually different times. So there are occasional overlaps, but the boards that I'm on try it as best as possible to provide the ability to go to as many committees as you want to.
So sometimes, John, I hear where the comp committee wants to meet with the risk committee or things like that happen. Has that happened in your experience as well?
Quite often you'll have a joint audit and risk committee, a joint comp and audit committee when you're dealing with things like compliance or other issues that would span multiple committees. Yeah.
So if you look into your magic crystal ball and sort of say, okay, this is how I see things changing. I've got younger people on boards. Their schedule might not be as flexible, either because of their job or because. So do you see other changes in the way things are happening if you had to guess from a crystal ball perspective?
Yeah, I think boards are becoming much more dynamic in their ability to meet and connect and communicate than they were years ago. So it's not just the formal every other month, every 3-month board cadence, but when there are interesting topics that affect the company that we're on the board of, we're going to interact more real time, whether that's through a platform like Diligent or whether that's calling up or texting one of the board members and saying, hey, do you want to chat about this issue? So much more real time, much more dynamic interaction than simply we're going to show up when the board meetings are. I think that's one change that will happen. I think the other change is that, with digital technology and the way things are evolving, directors have access to so much more information now than they ever did before. So, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, they would get the board packet and that would be their information on the company. Now, with platforms like Diligent, they can view information on the company at any time. They can see what news is happening, what events are going on. They can interact directly with each other on the platform. So that's another big change that's happening today.
And the important part is it's secure.
It is very secure.
Yeah.
There's great stories out there, bad stories out there really, about directors who emailed something to another director and their email was hacked, and then the whole M&A plan was out, for everybody
All
to
it
see.
takes is one of those to happen. Yeah. Well, John, I want to thank you for taking the time.
Thank you, TK.
Not that this is tough duty, but
This is a great place to be.
Yeah, but again, I appreciate you joining us. And that will conclude this edition of Inside America's Boardrooms. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back again next week when we take another look at a critical topic that'll help you be a better board member or committee member. So we'll see you then.